look at what's going on with Afghanistan. You have cars that's treating our president like he doesn't even exist. So they make a deal, and I'm not advocating staying, because frankly, I want to build this country. I want to build these schools. I don't want to build a school in Afghanistan. A road going to the school, watch it get built up and then blown up 4 times, and they keep rebuilding and rebuilding. And you go to Brooklyn, New York, and you can't have schools. You go to Iowa, you can't. You go to wherever you go, and you can't have schools because we don't have any money.
And look at these poll numbers. A new Washington Post ABC News poll has Trump's approval rating sinking to 37%. 1 point above his all-time low, and giving him the lowest 2-year average approval rating of any president in the 72-year history of presidential polling. Among political independents, 63% disapprove of Trump's job performance, up 10 points since November. The poll also found that 22% of Americans, more than 1 in 5, say they were personally inconvenienced by the 35-day government shutdown. And 63% told the NBC Wall Street Journal poll that the nation is heading on the wrong track, matching the record high for the Trump presidency. So the government is now temporarily reopened, but President Trump is again ramping up the pressure on lawmakers to strike a deal that includes funding for his border wall. The agreement with congressional leaders will last 3 weeks until February 15th to allow for them to continue talks over border security. On Saturday, the president tweeted, 21 days goes very quickly. Negotiations with Democrats will start immediately, will not be easy to make a deal. Both parties very dug in. The case for national security has been greatly enhanced by what has been happening at the border and through dialogue. We will build the wall. At one point, in the middle of his White House speech on Friday, his teleprompter stopped rolling, and the president, oh boy, decided to riff on some of his familiar and unsubstantiated talking points on border security.
Based on operational guidance from the experts in the field, they will put together a Homeland Security package for me to shortly sign into law. Over the next 21 days, I expect that both Democrats and Republicans will operate in good faith. This is an opportunity for all parties to work together for the benefit of our whole beautiful, wonderful nation. The walls we are building are not medieval walls. They are smart walls. Women are tied up, they're bound, duct tape put around their faces, around their mouths. In many cases, they can't even breathe. They're put in the backs of cars or vans or trucks. They don't go through your port of entry. They make a right turn going very quickly. They go into the desert areas or whatever areas you can look at. And as soon as there's no protection, they make a left or a right into the United States of America. There's nobody to catch them. There's nobody to find them. I love.
Wow. That's just...
And nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. I mean, I have absolutely no idea, Sam Stein, what all of that meant. As a president, obviously, his poll number is absolutely battered. 3 of our officers are currently stable. 2 are still critical. Please keep them and their families in your thoughts and prayers. And please note names on social media at this time. They definitely are not naming officers yet, which seems appropriate. They might not have notified any of their relatives yet of the serious situation, how they were obviously seriously wounded at work today. So they're keeping their names private at this point.
Yeah, a huge update coming from the Police Officers Union. Again, 3 officers in stable condition, 2 officers in critical condition right now. So again, asking for your thoughts and prayers as we wait for an update, perhaps in about half an hour from now, from the police chief. In the meantime, we are still getting more of those moments when dispatchers and first responders made the call that they needed backup, they needed help because officers were down. Let's take a listen.
Since
We got officers down going in where they should be, which way they're going, and to what hospital so we can get units, get that escort going.
and our real
Assistant officers for the officers being shot 37, 12 Harding, 7812 Harding,
don't believe
30 South Central area.
people up there can't get jobs.
All right, you were hearing some of those calls. They're pretty chilling when you hear, now you know the perspective that those calls were being made into context, I should say. We've got these pictures up for you right now. We're watching the hospital. We've seen Chief Art Acevedo come in probably about a good 20 minutes ago. Obviously to check on the officers, but they're also going to establish a briefing here at some point to really get clarification on a lot of the issues. And of course, the scene is still fluid. We're told that this briefing again will take place at 7:30 here at the hospital. This live picture on your left-hand side, but we do want to take you back to the scene again. We've got several reporters there gathering information as much as they can. We've got Jessica Willie there. She's been talking to several people. Let's go back to Jessica Willie live at the scene.
Yeah, and nothing has changed, I don't think, since we last saw you. Still an active scene, from what we understand. There is concern among the investigators here or at the scene that some of the undercover officers who were originally serving the warrant here on Harding Street, the 78 and 100 block of Harding, may be exposed. They are undercover officers, so they asked us if there's any videos floating around or anything along those lines to please blur those officers' faces. Also asking us when they do the walkthrough, as happens after officer-involved shootings with the DA's office and other authorities, that we not shoot the officers doing the walkthrough. So quite a contingency who are still on the scene. And the investigators concerned about their identities getting out. We understand from the Houston Police Officers Union, the president, that 3 officers are stable now at the hospital, 2 in critical condition. So certainly everyone out here hoping and praying that those officers pull through. You see a lot of officers here at the scene just kind of huddling, waiting for word on their fellow officers and waiting for word to see if they are in fact needed. We understand that the SWAT officers, they are still here. The SWAT vehicle is still here. It's hard to see, as you can imagine, this late with it being so dark, what exactly is going on down there. We spoke to someone who lives across the street about 20 minutes ago. She said that the police were still talking to somebody in the house. Not sure if that is still happening. And we spoke to a woman who was on the corner as this happened. She saw a couple of the officers in the moments after they were shot. She said that she saw one and showed us a video of it, of an officer on the ground being tended to, and also another officer who was shot in the arm, it appeared, running away from the scene to try to get treatment. But again, 5 officers shot here. We are at Harding and Berkeley. Ground zero is in the 7800 block of Harding, and this is a huge perimeter. Anyone who is trying to get home here tonight, they're going to be locked out on the outside of this for quite some time, because this is still active, and then once it becomes inactive in whichever way, they certainly have an investigation to do after that.
And Jessica, until this briefing that we're expecting at 7:30 with the chief, we may not get a direct answer on this one. It's tough to tell whether or not there is a suspect barricaded inside or whether this scene is now under control. I know that they just recently, HPD sent out a tweet recently saying they have SWAT there on the scene to make sure that there's no one left there. They're not giving you a concrete answer or residents, are they?
Correct. We haven't gotten any information from the scene, just more guidance from the officers who come up to us. But I will tell you, after having covered a lot of similar situations, that there's, these ambulances are here in case something happens. So certainly there is still concern that something could happen, or else they would be released and put back into service for other emergencies happening across our city.
That's a really good point right there, Jessica. As we do see the ambulances right there, that there's possibly somebody in that house. There could be more wounds, so they're keeping those ambulances on standby. But again, we're waiting for clarification on if there's a person still barricaded they're negotiating with or not from official police source as well. As we keep monitoring these two scenes for you right here, we definitely want to get you some more of that first responder sound from dispatcher. Let's listen to another one of those.
The house is secured. We have a house surrounded. We have a house surrounded. We got units in the back. We still have officers inside. Let's coordinate with HSD. We're going to transport so we get that escort going.
And we can do it.
Incredibly calm in those moments when they're dealing with such a huge emergency, and to find that 5 officers in our city were shot in one incident, which seems, just really mind-blowing. It's incredible to hear the calmness of those calls, and also the fact that they immediately are executing their plan to make sure they get those escorts, they get those streets open, and they're able to get those officers who need help to those hospitals within minutes to get them to those level 1 trauma
Yeah,
centers.
you think about that tweet too, though, it kind of painted a little bit of a picture as to what happened there, because we don't know. It sounds like they made entrance on that one. They said officers still inside. At least that could be suggested from reading that tweet, and that does paint a little bit more of a picture here. So they served this narcotics warrant. It's at least 5 officers, or not more, and they actually did get inside. So it's possible this shootout took place inside the home, at possibly close range. That when you're inside a house, and this house isn't that big, it's probably about 1,000 square feet from what Google Maps has shown it to be at several times. So a little bit more information there, but we have been talking to several witnesses out of the neighborhood as well. Let's go and listen to some of their interviews.
I saw them outside the house, and I saw the cops kind of like around the house already, and I heard the gunshots. As soon as I heard the gunshots, I closed the door, and I didn't want to listen to anything else that I did hear. I heard all the gunshots.
Seeing all these units, it's, kind of scary at the same time, because you don't know what happened, what's going on, or shooting or whatever, But that's particularly what's going on right now.
Very unsettling evening for all of the neighbors in this large area. We're talking about maybe a 20-block area. For the folks who were at home at the time, they're probably not even able to get out of that neighborhood. Most of the streets have been closed down, and just obviously a very unsettling time for them to know that they are stuck inside of that neighborhood where all of this violence has been happening. Again, we've been encouraging everyone, HPD still encouraging everyone to stay away from the neighborhood. If you happen to live in this area of Southeast Houston, Harding and Fennel is right where this was happening. Just give this some more time, because they are still working on this active scene. The SWAT teams are still there. As Jessica pointed out, all those ambulances, all those first responders are still on the scene in case something else were to happen. They also have an investigation to complete, and that's going to take hours and hours into the night. So if you happen to live in that area, you're going to want to give this some more time to let these scenes clear.
That's right, and of course we know at this point that 2 officers are in critical condition, 3 are in stable condition at Memorial Herman. Again, that is where officers are staging. You see a lot of police presence there right now, and we've seen Art Acevedo, the chief, show up as well. And we've got our live pictures back up again. One on the scene, zoomed in for you on the left. The other is, of course, sky high above what is a large area. They set up a huge perimeter around this house on Harding.
All of this happened so quickly. If you look at the clock, we're only a couple of hours into this, which is pretty incredible when you think about how much has been happening there and how quickly the response came in, how quickly we heard about this. We're going to go over to Melanie Lawson to join us right now here in the studio with a little bit closer look at this timeline of all of this now.
And you're absolutely right, Alona, as we watch this scene continue to unfold. It's really all happened in just a matter of minutes. So we'll give you kind of a timeline
to present to
on
you
all of this,
and to all of
minute by minute
America,
look as it unfolded.
my
Houston
father
police, of course, as we know,
and
responded.
our next president,
After now we know 5
Donald
officers were
J.
shot off Harding and Fennel in the vicinity of the block. Now, HFD first responded to the call of officers down at 5:07. At that point, it wasn't clear just how many were injured at that point, but it was only 3 minutes later that the mayor and police chief took to social media to share details of what might have happened. Less than 10 minutes later, the Houston Police Department's first tweet about the gunfire, they reported 3 officers had been shot and 2 suspects enormous and
But
remains.
when we
so
started
tremendous.
this journey
All of
on
us
June
flashing lights.
16th,
We're also very
last
busy
year,
in the newsroom. I just
we,
came in from there.
and
We're
I say
working all
we,
the phones.
because
have our
we
crews out there
are a
trying to
team.
learn exactly what happened. The blessing, as we're now hearing, is that all 5 officers are in the hospital being treated. We do know that at least 2 of them are critical. 3 others in stable condition. That is a good bit of news. But of course, we're asking the city, all of us tonight, to pray for our officers. This has been a very difficult day for the department. We know that in addition to HPD, we've got several other law enforcement agencies out there, including the Harris County Sheriff's Office. Just a very, very difficult day, Alona and Eric.
Absolutely,
Yes.
Mel. And you're certainly summing up the feelings of so many around the city, sending out their prayers. Happy to hear the news that all of those officers are at the hospital receiving treatment. And again, as Mel said, 3 stable, 2 of them still in critical condition as of about 10 minutes ago. And so we are looking for an update from the police chief about 7:30 p.m. at the hospital. In the meantime, that's where we find our own Christine Dobbin standing by at Memorial Hermann as we have seen more and more officers arriving to show their support. Christine?
Elena, I don't even have a count for you, but it is, I'm sure, close to 100 officers or more that are here on the scene. Not just Houston police officers, but we've seen officers from other departments coming here to just show their support, their solidarity for these 5 officers. Right now, we are all set up here right in front of the ER here at Memorial Hermann. We're awaiting a 7:30 news conference where we expect Mayor Sylvester Turner as well as Police Chief Art Acevedo to brief us on the conditions of those officers, what exactly their wounds are, and what the progress is as far as them being in surgery and their condition. Again, we do know that 2 of them are in critical condition. 3 of them, their conditions have been stabilized, but we don't have any more details as far as that goes. I know Houston Police, they've been in communication with us since we got here, but they simply did not want to speak until they have some definitive information.
On the ground who witnessed this shooting, and we've been hearing from neighbors in that area. Lauren Tellerico has been on the ground speaking with people there, talking to them about the confusion. Why were there gunshots ringing out? Why was there such a police presence there? A lot of families separated from their children as their children were coming home from school and told, hey, you can't enter the neighborhood yet because we still haven't secured the scene. So for residents in that neighborhood, in the Gloverdale neighborhood, it's been a very scary and confusing evening for them as they try to stay safe in that area and get more information about what's going on just blocks away.
Meanwhile, you're looking at a live picture outside Memorial Hermann Hospital where so many officers have gathered. Our Stephanie Whitfield, our reporter Stephanie Whitfield, has arrived at the scene. Stephanie, what can you tell us?
Well, about 30 minutes ago, Police Chief Art Acevedo arrived here at Memorial Hermann Hospital. He rushed inside to get an update on the officers who are being treated here. At this point, two life flight helicopters have arrived here with officers as well as 2 ambulances. And so far, all of the information that we've been receiving has been released through these agencies on social media. And this is some of the things that we've already been sharing with you, including that 3 officers are in stable condition, 2 of them are in critical condition, and again, we're waiting for that update with Police Chief Art Acevedo. I believe Mayor Sylvester Turner will be speaking to us as well.
The AP had him at 34%, and ABC, Washington Post poll this morning has him at 37%. This is what I don't understand, Sam. He's getting pounded. You go through every demographic group. Things are getting worse for him. What changes over the next 3 weeks? If Nancy Pelosi is not going to be moving on the wall, which she isn't, and she shouldn't, then how does this end differently 3 weeks from now?
Well, it obviously doesn't unless he declares an emergency declaration, which, you know, he should. If it was in fact an emergency, he would have declared at any point over the past 5 weeks, which he hasn't done. But that speech was like very surreal, right? I mean, stuff he was talking about that is just not tethered to reality. The whole duct taping and right and left turns when they enter the country, none of it really makes sense. And I guess I just don't understand who is giving this president strategic advice in the White House. He spent 5 weeks doing the shutdown fight. He got the hopes of his base up. He then killed the hopes of his base by giving in. He ruined his poll numbers. He took an economic impact. He emboldened Nancy Pelosi. And then he says to everyone, I'm going to do this again in 3 weeks. I mean, that is insane politically. And I don't know what they think they have to win this fight that will be new to them in 3 weeks that they didn't have 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Well, and one thing that remains the same is Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is not going to move an inch on the wall. And you know, Trump has to know that. This has to be a 3-week strategy, figuring out a strategic retreat.
It will end up being some kind of a semantic variation. You saw a couple of people meet the press, you know, talking about a fence. Well, in that case, if there is some money for a fence and they call it a wall or some sort of additional border security, money isn't the issue. That's the interesting thing. They're not worried about the fiscal side of this. They are willing, the Democrats, to spend a lot of money on border security, just not call it a wall. And I think the difference is that the Republicans in the Senate have had it. They're really fed up. You don't have, and I don't think we'll ever, given the current circumstances, have 20 Republicans, according to people I've spoken to, who are willing to override a presidential veto or, you know, worst case, you know, do something convict in a trial, an impeachment trial. But because they see in his poll numbers strong Republican support, and so many of them don't want to be primary. So he still has Republican support, but the Senate leadership and throughout the Senate caucus are really fed up. You saw that in last Thursday's lunch meeting, and they're not going to let this go to it.
Let me just make one quick point on the Republican support. What was an interesting byproduct of his cave was that, in fact, there was erosion of Republican support in all demographics. But last night, in an interview to the Wall Street Journal, Trump went after Ann Coulter for being mean to him. And if that's the type of bickering that you're going to see in the aftermath of these fights, I'm not sure that Republicans are going to be so allied to Trump in the near future. Because what is the point?
I think they're still afraid of his popularity.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that out. I want to, David Ignatius, let's stop for 1 second, and this is not personal to anybody. It's just, the truth is, we all know it, as just a matter of fact, that it was Ann Coulter and Rush Limbaugh that actually got Donald Trump to move away from a deal that would have averted all of this. And if you are just Donald Trump or one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, you look at the incalculable damage that those two have done to this president and to this presidency and his ability to govern over the next 2 years. History books will be written about it. And I just wonder if Donald Trump understands how much those two savaged his presidency on that one day. Well, actually, he savaged his presidency by being so weak that he couldn't even stand up to him.
He has been, played by these right-wing commentators. It's been true from the very beginning. He had, through Jared Kushner, a deal with Mexico to finesse the whole issue of the border in the first weeks of his presidency. Mexican president was coming to Washington. The deal was set, and there was right-wing condemnation of it. And Trump just absolutely freaked out. He just can't handle the criticism from the right. Oh my gosh, my base is in danger. And the deal was scuttled. The Mexican president canceled his visit, and that's sort of a prelude to what we're in now. It's still going on. I'll make a crazy prediction, which is that by February 15, the deadline, we will have a deal. I think the Democrats would be foolish not to take this as a win. There's a way in which they can craft a win that the country will like. Country is so sick of what they're watching. And if the Democrats extend that, or seem to extend it, strikes me that...
I don't know on what planet him closing down the government again or declaring a national emergency would be politically prudent for him in any way. And not a complete disaster. Yeah, exactly. And speaking of...
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around this to watch more. I can tell you it's not going to be open until we have a wall, a fence, whatever they'd like to call it. Let's let's get with it. Get out of Afghanistan.
I would leave the troops there begrudgingly. I'm not happy about it.
My original instinct was to pull out. The consequences of a rapid exit are both predictable and unacceptable. I will ask Congress to convene a special session so we can repeal and replace. And we will do it very, very quickly. As I said, repeal it and replace it within 64 days. I'm a long time. We'll just let Obamacare fail. We're not going to own it. I'm not going to own it. We have to fix our infrastructure. It's not like we have a choice. Well, we're going to get infrastructure. Infrastructure is the easiest of all. Infrastructure is going to be starting right after the midterms, and we think that's going to be an easy one. I don't like these children being separated from the parents, but that's a Democrat bill that we're enforcing. You can't do it through an executive order. We are signing an executive order in a little while. We're going to keep families together. She doesn't know if it's the Russians doing the hacking. Maybe there is no hacking. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be Russia. Sort of a double negative. We're going to have a shutdown. There's nothing we can do about that because we need the Democrats to give us their votes. We have reached a deal to end the shutdown. Let me be very clear. We really have no choice but to build a powerful wall or steel barrier. If we don't get a fair deal from Congress, the government will either shut down on February 15th again, or I will use the powers afforded to me under the laws and the Constitution of the United States to address this emergency.
Like fucking twice a month and shit for years. You know what I'm saying? But you know, shit happens, man. The man got them belts, he changed. Everything he said he stood for, he switched up on us. You know what I'm saying? He switched up. He changed up, man. He just, you know, I got an old, I ain't afraid to let it go. If you can beat me, beat me. When I get into a position where I'm the champ, I ain't ducking nobody. Anybody who won can get it. He was talking all that kind of rah-rah shit. So he sounded like the people's champ. You know, he sounded like the people's champ, but, you know, unfortunately we had to find out the hard way that, you know, Keith ain't really about that action like that. You know what I'm saying? He ain't really about that action like that. You know, and if Keith Thurman, from what I've seen in that fight with Jose Lopez, if Keith Thurman fights Earl Spence, put it this way, if he fight Earl Spence next, or Terence Crawford next, or Sean Porter next, he's losing. He's losing to them guys. I'm confident he's gonna lose to them guys. He needs to work out them kinks. I don't know why he's going on vacation. He needs to be back in the gym. He ain't got time for vacation. He talking about he's gonna come back and fight later on this year. Bro, like you don't have, what are you talking about? You've been off for 2 years. You should be right back in the gym trying to get another fight. You should be trying to fight 3 or 4 times this year. You know what I'm saying? Greater Time said, Keith said he going to fight like Floyd, only trying to win 7 rounds. Yeah, I told y'all that before the fight, remember? I told y'all, or was it after the fight? I told y'all, he said, Keith was talking all that Floyd shit, man. He started adopting Floyd Mayweather practices, but he not Floyd Mayweather. They're not gonna keep letting you win fights like that. Especially if you fight Earl Spence. You know what I'm saying? Crawford's a better outboxer than Keith Thurman. Crawford can fight that way, and he can win. Because the judges are used to seeing Terence Crawford box that way. You know what I mean? Keith Thurman ain't gonna win no decision on Crawford doing that shit. He definitely gonna win over Earl Spence doing it. I mean the Dream One in the super chat. Appreciate you, bro. Says hope Broner versus Thurman don't happen. Said tired of AB. Tired of AB? Yeah. Speaking of AB, I've been noticing a lot of young dudes been asking me about Adrian Broner. A lot of young dudes have been asking me about AB. Like, you know, My son asked me about Agent Broner. He was like, hey, he said, what's up with Agent Broner? He said, he was talking all that stuff, man, about Pacquiao. He didn't even try to win. You know, that's how a lot of people see it. And some of my son's friends were saying the same thing. Like, you know, Broner, they don't feel like Broner was giving it his all, like really going for it. Like, you know, if you're doing it for the hood, like, you gotta go all out, go for it. You know what I'm saying? And he wasn't. He was trying to fight safe. He was trying to fight not to get knocked out. So that was interesting to hear the perspective of the little young dudes, you know what I'm saying? Who are more casual boxing fans, you know? My brother, Mr. Chico Lopez, in the super chat, salute to the real pit bull. In the super chat says, commend you, my friend. He says, a true leader has to lead by example. He says, the only racist I respect is the one that is racist against stupidity.
Jen,
He says,
bottom
the
line.
culture is...
And people keep confusing it. Shout out to Dennis Sanchez, $2 super chat. Much into Massachusetts ego, much love. Shout out. I told y'all gotta stop sending them super chat. I don't even want no more super chat. Don't send me no more super chat because the haters just gonna get mad and come, oh yeah, ego. Oh yeah, you know, I love you. You know. They'll come saying that crazy stuff.
Well, Donald, I know you live in your own reality, but that is not the fact. But you have no plan. Educate. Oh, I do.
Jose de Jesus, my guy, $5 super chat. I hope that make that fight in New York. Hey, Jose stingy. Shout out to you for the super chat. He won all the fights in New York. And I'm the same way though on the West Coast. I want everything in the West Coast. Make it easy and convenient. He said, hashtag new media, hashtag Eagle Army, gang gang. Let them haters keep hating. That's not going to keep the money from coming in. That's all I tell y'all. You know what? Banks said, go ahead, switch the style up. If niggas hate to let them hate to watch the money pile up. They talk about me. Shit, I'm talking about me too. You know? We proven commodities out here. It's profitable out here. Dr. Bijou, see? $5 super chat. I can't even stream anymore. Every time I stream, the money keep coming. Money keep coming. Ego, to put a face to the name. Remember back in September, my son was born while the live stream was active, and you asked the army to salute young Cameron. Yeah, I do remember you. I hope your son's doing well, you and your family. I remember that. Oh, we the people's champ. Shout out to all the kids, you know, and the parents who are getting their kids, because kids, you gotta look at it, kids could be doing all types of stuff nowadays. There's a lot of vices, a lot of bad things. So I respect when the parents, you know, not necessarily just have their kids fighting, but just even involved in watching this sport. You know, anything that keeps kids away, because there's a lot of distractions and a lot of foul stuff going on, you know, in this world. So I think boxing is one of the things that kind of unites all of us. Shout out to y'all. Look, I told y'all, like clockwork, every time the money come in, the haters show up. Somehow, some way. Somehow, some way. I told y'all, it's like clockwork. They see the money, they're like, God damn it, I gotta slow his roll some kind of way. He says, I just heard the channel was racist. Like what? These dudes don't even, like, they're not even saying nothing. Look, cockatoo Danish, you're a cunt for ignoring my message. That's because your name has cock and two in it. I don't really typically talk to guys with cock and two, both words in their first name. I don't talk to cockatoos, cock-a-doodle-doo. That's your fault. Change your fucking name, dirtbag. And I might answer. And got cock in it. Hold on, one second.
A lot of the people who were stiffed by you and your businesses, Donald, architects, glass
Shout out to Real Brother 32, $10 super chat. Shout out to the live stream on YouTube with the realest host, reporter, and the realest channel members and shooters, extravaganza, gang, Eagles Army salute. Shout out to all of us. We working. Yeah, man, get that cock-a-doodle-doodle out of here, bro. They always come hate with the fuck shit every single time. They don't like. You know what I think it is? They got bills and shit like unpaid. And then when they see the super chats and people helping the movement, helping the brand grow, everyone laughing, having a good time, they're like, God damn it, I'm past due 31 days. These motherfuckers are giving money to this panhandler. They're giving money. They keep calling me a panhandler. I'm not even doing nothing but getting myself. You go to panhandler. Shit, you better get your panhandler.
Investigation is completed. Jacob Rescon standing by at Herman Hospital here.
Yeah, Bill, we are awaiting the police chief, we're awaiting the mayor. We know that both are inside. We saw them go in, they've been with the officers, they've been gathering information. The story continues to develop, and of course, when they get out here, we hope that they will lay it all out for us, exactly what happened when the officers arrived, why exactly they were there, where these officers were shot. We understand that 2 of them are very serious, but I understand that the other 3 were shot in the extremities or injured somehow in a non-serious or non-life-threatening way. I'll keep looking behind me to make sure that they're not coming. They initially said that 7:30 they would be here. Of course, as we know in these situations, a lot of times that is delayed for one reason or another. But according to law enforcement sources talking to KPRC, we had 2 that are very serious, including a couple, or at least one, who was shot in the face, somewhere in the face. So these are very serious conditions. You know that there were helicopters coming to Memorial Hermann. That is how serious these injuries were. We saw the mayor immediately going in, and we're watching now to see who's coming out because we see some activity. All of the officers that were there waiting right in front of this area where they go in and out are now, as you see, walking back toward the doorway where the police chief and the Houston mayor, so that Mr. Turner, went in initially, and we're all just waiting for them now to come out. All of the media here in the staging area, where we are told they want all of the information to be relayed here instead of there at the scene for whatever reason. We see now one of Sylvester Turner's press communications officers out here, so we believe that he will be out here shortly. But there are a lot of questions. There are some answers, but as is usually the case when these press conferences happen, things are cleared up, the dots are connected, and we understand more about exactly what happened.
That's Jacob Rescon, who is there at Herman Hospital, Memorial Herman Hospital in the Texas Medical Center as we await the news conference. I believe I see.
I thought I saw the police chief.
I think so. He's come out into the lobby there of the hospital. He'll have to make his way across the street along with the mayor.
There they are.
And they will let us know what they know about these officers' condition. Aside from the fact that, as we've been told, 2 are in critical condition, as you see on your screen here, and 3 in stable condition. We hope that they have encouraging news about prognosis for these officers, and some information about their families, who our understanding is have been brought to the hospital in some cases by other police officers. But they seem to be huddling there, Dominique, there in the lobby of the hospital before they make their way out to the door. It looks like they're starting to head that way now.
Yes, they head across the street. The podium for the news conference is set up across the street from the hospital. So we're going to keep our camera poised on the police chief and the mayor, so we'll be able to know when they're leaving that area and crossing the street to begin the news conference, which was scheduled to begin at 7:30 this evening. So they're a few minutes behind schedule, but understandable because they needed to talk with medical personnel, they needed to talk with family,
and each other to be cohesive in the message that they communicate with us, with the media, and therefore to you, the viewer. What you see on the right-hand side of your screen is our Sky 2 camera. It is over the scene. We were happy to report that the scene is secure. So the public is now being allowed back in. The suspect that they were reportedly dealing with in that house, we don't know what happened to that suspect. That's one of the questions we hope to have answered, because we were told there were 3 suspects in all, 2 of whom were dead. So we need to know what happened to that 3rd person in the house. Now, the reporting that we heard was that a life flight helicopter left the scene, which, if that's the case, and if it is carrying somebody, would be making it over to Memorial Hermann shortly. So the scene is on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side is Memorial Hermann Hospital, where we are awaiting the news conference to find out who was involved in this shooting, what this was about. We do know so far that a warrant was being served, or warrants, by the gang task force on the southeast side of town. That was the start of the story. And now we have 5 officers who were shot and being treated for their wounds.
We're just told that the mayor and the police chief are getting one final briefing from the hospital medical personnel before they come out and tell the public through us what
wondering if their loved one is going to be okay. To the other brothers and sisters in blue, worried about their colleagues. An incredibly tough day here in the city of Houston, and we are about ready to learn the extent of what took place today, who's behind it, most importantly, who was injured and who we can pray for.
Thank you all for your patience. First and foremost, I want to just say right off the bat that no officer has died, and folks are trying to start those rumors, so I want to say that right off the bat. Before I make some specific comments on what occurred tonight, Mayor Turner and Councilman here, Mayor Turner, will open up the briefing. Mayor?
Let me just start off by saying that this has been a tough day for our city, but I certainly want to encourage all Houstonians to pray for all of our police officers who are at Memorial Hermann. This is one of the finest hospitals you will find anywhere in the country, and they're being attended to with the best medical care. So pray for all of our police officers. I will tell you, one of them is either will be discharged if it has not already been. That's good news. And for the others who will be remaining here at the hospital, pray for them and pray for their families. Pray for their spouses, their children, their parents, all of their loved ones, and there are many loved ones that are on the road en route here. So pray for those who will be flying from outside of the state, and pray for those who are on the road driving in. That's important. Let me also thank EMS and the fire department for the work that they did in getting all of them here to this hospital in very quick time. Let me tell you, let me commend EMS, Chief Pena, the fire department, all of them who responded to our police officers in that moment of need, and got them here in very fast time so that they could be attended to. I want to thank the Houston Police Department and others for clearing the roadway, for clearing the freeway, so that they could bring them, get them here so they could get the care that they desperately needed in a very quick fashion. And then I just want to thank all of Houston for just offering their presence. Let me just say this. Our job is to keep people safe in our city. And I want to be very clear, is that we do not tolerate any sort of activity, whether it's drug activity, drug trafficking, whether it's whatever it may be. We don't tolerate it in our city. That we want to work night and day to make sure that our city remains safe. We don't want anyone injured in any manner, whether it's a person that's on the street or whether it's a police officer, whether it's a firefighter, a first responder, whoever it might be. And so I'm just very grateful and thankful for everyone who's come together in this moment. I want to thank the members of City Council who are here standing as well tonight, who have left their offices or their homes to be here. I want to say a special thanks to each one of the City Council members. I want to say a special thanks for Tiffany Fatita, who's here to stand and to be at this hospital, continuing to pray for all the police officers. And I want to thank all of you for the coverage that you've provided. But and the medical staff. I really want to thank the medical staff here at Herman Memorial. They are just incredible, and they're giving some fantastic care to these police officers. So, Chief, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for always, one of the calls you never want to get as a chief is you've had officers shot, and one of the calls you never want to make to a mayor, to a family member, is that officers have been hurt. So I'm going to go over the incident real quick, and we've had a second officer involved shooting in Northside, and I don't know if you guys want to hear about that or not, but I want to focus initially on this first shooting. So at about 4:15 p.m., narcotics group 15 of the Houston Police Department, who was working an investigation involving the sales of narcotics out of a residence on the 7800 block of Hardy Street, responded to Hardy Street as a team of about a dozen narcotics officers and about a half a dozen patrol officers from the East Side Division. The patrol officers were there to provide support and obviously to provide the uniform presence for this operation. Shortly before 5 o'clock, the officers, the narcotics officers, attempted to serve a search warrant on a location at 7800 Hardy Street. They announced themselves as Houston police officers while simultaneously breaching the front door of the residence. And while the police car, the marked police unit with uniform members as well as the police officers or the police guard also hit the siren to make sure everybody can hit the lights so they knew that police officers were there. Immediately upon breaching the door, the officers came under fire from one or two suspects inside the house. We're not sure how many of the suspects fired at this time. You can imagine it was a pretty chaotic scene over there, and the investigations unfolded. As a result of the exchange of gunfire between our officers and one or two suspects, we have 5 officers injured, 4 were struck by gunfire, 2 officers are currently in surgery. They're in surgery for gunfire sustained, and they are in critical but stable condition. And we're hopeful that with the prayers of this community that they will recover. But again, they are in critical condition but stable. Their families are here. Some of the families are in transit, but 2 officers are currently in surgery. 2 other officers were shot, and they will remain hospitalized for observation for at least 24-hour period. They were struck by gunfire, but they are basically ambulatory and they're expected to make a full recovery. 1 officer sustained an injury during the gun battle. It's important to note that once the officers, the initial indications are once the officers reached the door and the gunfire began from the suspects. One of the suspects actually retreated momentarily to the back of the room, and then that suspect came back and again engaged the officers and gunfire. I have not been able to determine how many officers are shot, have returned fire. That's part of the ongoing investigation. As you can imagine, we needed to work the scene from a tactical perspective, SWAT response along with other allied agencies. We established a pretty hard perimeter, and once you had 5 officers injured, 4 shot, and 5 believed to be shot at the time, we had to slow down and actually turn it into a very methodical, tactical operation. The SWAT operators, upon taking control of the scene, utilized 2 different robots to go into the residence and to actually help search the residence. 2 suspects were struck by return gunfire a member of the Houston Police Department. Those suspects, once we were able to render the scene safe by SWAT, were pronounced deceased at the scene from return gunfire from the officers. I want to personally thank the Houston Fire Department. They're phenomenal partners. The care and the concern and the love that they show to display for our officers and their families are second to none. Chief Pena runs a world-class organization, and I also personally want to thank, on behalf of all the men and women of the Houston Police Department, the staff that you see behind us. We are so blessed to live in a city with medical facilities that people from around the world that of well means come here because they know that these hospitals, this institution of hospitals, are really second to none. I really believe as a result of their excellence, our officers are going to be in better hands. I also want to thank Lifelight, and I'll call Chief Pena here in a minute to update you on who was how many were transported by Lifelight and by ground. And I also want to thank our members of the Houston Police Department. It's important to know this investigation began, and I was talking to the council members and Stardig and Gallegos and Dwight Boykins and the mayor that they received emails. We received emails. We received complaints. Our eyes and ears are truly the community that we serve. We could not do what we do without the community we serve. This all began because a neighbor had the courage to say, we're not going to put up. We think that there's dealing dope out of this house. And we don't just ignore that. We immediately pass that on to our narcotics division that began this investigation, was able to actually determine that narcotics dealing, street level narcotics dealing, black tar heroin was being dealt out of this, and we know the poison is killing so many kids, not only here in Houston, but around the country. They immediately started an investigation, and that's what they were there tonight. They were there to execute a search warrant, and unfortunately, as we know, ironically, the mayor and I had our press conference today, and Tillman Fertitta, the chairman of the Police Foundation, Houston Police Foundation, we were celebrating two things today. One, at the Houston Police Academy, we're celebrating the groundbreaking right behind me there. He's being shy. The groundbreaking of Tactical Village, that again is the result of a $10 million investment by the people of this community and their police department that tells you the kind of support we have. And two, we were there to celebrate the fact that this police department in 2019 has 300 fewer officers than we had 20 years ago, about 500,000 more people. Our men and women, we said it then and we'll say it again, they don't make excuses, they make a difference. And what you saw today with these officers showing that they have the courage, the guts, and the perseverance to do what they need to do to keep this community safe. And so with that, I'll come back and answer questions of the mayor, more questions on the actual incident, and do some Spanish. But I like Chief Pena, who's not only a colleague, he's a dear friend, to come up and talk a little bit about the outstanding work of his men and women.
Good evening. This is a tough day for the Houston Fire Department and the city of Houston. I think we need to ensure that we keep these officers that were injured here tonight in our prayers and their families. There's some real evil in this world, and I think today was evident. This incident was evident as far as the dangers that our first responders face each and every day out here in the streets. Couldn't be prouder of the work that the Houston Fire Department did. We were on scene in support of the Houston police officers' operation. It was the incredible work and quick work of our medic units that gave these officers, these injured officers, the best chance of survival to this world-class facility. I do want to make a special mention, Medic 18, Medic 19, and Ambulance 19 and their crews here tonight on C shift, who did an outstanding job of ensuring that the injured officers were provided with the critical care that they needed, as well as the other units on scene that were there to evacuate the patients onto life flights. So we had 3 injured officers that were transported by ambulance here to Herman Memorial, and 2 that were life flighted from the scene. All of them receiving advanced life support and advanced life care throughout transport. We got them to the hospital in critical but stable condition. And again, we're praying for these officers to pull through. And can't say enough about the work that the Houston police officers and the Houston Police Department do each and every day, as well as the Houston fire departments and the incredible support that we provide for each other. So with that, we'll be available for any questions.
Chief, let me just acknowledge the fact that Governor Abbott did call, had a chance to talk to him and expressed his concern for all of these officers and their families, and wanted me to let you know that he's certainly sending forth his prayers on behalf of these officers as well as their families. So I did want to make that note.
Chief, the two officers in the critical, where are they?
Say again?
The two officers.
They both were struck in the neck area by gunfire.
Making inside the house?
You know what? That's part of the investigation. We know that that they breached and they came under fire right away. Let me just say that to the media real quick. I just got reports a minute ago that somebody's already found the house of one of these officers and showed up. That is irresponsible. These are narcotics officers that work undercover. They do not need the media out in front of their house. So it's not helpful, and I don't think it's appropriate. So if you're that station, wherever you work, please don't just get out of that area. These guys all work undercover. Let me just give you a quick overview of who got shot in terms of ages. And one of the individuals struck once in 1991. The other officer that was life-flighted, the 54-year-old and the 40-year-old, those two are in surgery. He was actually life-flighted as well. And the last one is 33 and is transported by ambulance. The officers that returned fire at the scene are being debriefed by the Special Investigations Unit, by Internal Affairs. The Harris County District Attorney's Office is on scene at the officer-involved shooting, and they will be working with us, the Civil Rights Division, to ensure that all policies, procedures, and law were followed. With that, I'm going to let Joe Gamaldi, who's in times like this, sometimes what we can't do, the Houston Police Officers Union do a phenomenal job of being partners with us, and I'd like to have him say a couple of comments on behalf of the Police Officers Union.
First of all, let me just thank the community. The outpouring of support has once been amazing. It shows why Houston's the greatest city in the world. I want to thank Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who already contacted us to make sure these officers are doing all right. And I want to thank all of our partners at HFD, all the officers out on that scene, who all played a crucial role in getting them down here. And certainly thank you to the medical staff, the world-class medical staff here that are taking care of our officers. But now I want to speak on behalf of the 5,200 brave men and women of the Houston Police Department and the other 800,000 police officers that are working these streets every single day, putting their lives on the line. We are sick and tired of having targets on our back. We are sick and tired of having dirt bags trying to take our lives when all we're trying to do is protect this community and protect our families. Enough is enough. And if you're the ones that are out there spreading the rhetoric that police officers are the enemy, well, just know we've all got your number now. We're going to be keeping track of all of y'all, and we're going to make sure that we hold you accountable every time you stir the pot on our police officers. We've had enough, folks. We're out there doing our jobs every day, putting our lives on the line for our families. Enough is enough. Now, please keep these officers in your prayers.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. We'll open it up to questions, or I can do Spanish real quick.
Two suspects total, or three suspects?
There are two suspects that were shot in return gunfire and were they pronounced at the scene. Two suspects. Semi-automatic is all I have. I don't have anything other than semi-automatic.
Tell us about those suspects. They're back.
I can't tell you anything other than I know that because we had a search warrant that narcotics activity was going on in that residence, specifically the sale of black tar heroin.
Is there gang activity related?
We don't, that's part of the investigation. Semi-automatic pistols. One officer, out of the 5 officers, 4 were shot, 2 critically that are in surgery, both shot in the neck. But they're stable, thank God. I talked with the mayor and I talked to the surgeon on the way out, and one was an injury that's not from gunfire. It's a knee injury because when you're getting shot, people are moving in all kinds of directions, and when there's a lot of shots being fired at you, and
You get 4 officers shot, 5 officers shot. That's a lot of gunfire that came our way.
Did you know if any of the officers were injured by friendly fire?
No, I mean, let me just say this right off the bat. We don't suspect anybody being struck by friendly fire. I don't expect, because our people are really well trained, even though in these very dynamic situations that certainly can happen. But if an officer was shot by friendly fire, the only people responsible under the law and morally are the people inside that residence that decided to take shots at police officers executing a lawful search warrant. What else?
¿Cuál es la situación en ese momento en esa comunidad que es altamente hispana? ¿Qué mensaje tiene para la gente ahí hispana que está desarrollando?
Bueno, la comunidad hispana, queremos que sepan que tenemos un gran orgullo que la comunidad vio que había, pensaban que estaban vendiendo drogas en esta casa en la calle que le di hace un ratico. La comunidad tuvo el coraje para decirnos, por favor, no queremos esta actividad en nuestra comunidad.
As Police Chief Art Acevedo now addressing the Spanish-speaking community through the Spanish-speaking media outlets there.
So much we have learned from this news conference. We will gather all of that information, compile it for you at 10 o'clock. But as we wrap this up, we want to talk to our reporters on scene. Jacob Rascon is there at Memorial Hermann right now. Jacob?
Yeah, Dominique and Bill, we're just going to turn it around because he's also giving the press conference in Spanish just to say a lot of this turned out as we suspected. These narcotics officers, many of whom work undercover, were responding to a suspected drug house. Black tar heroin suspected to be involved. Immediately when they knocked on the door to serve the search warrant, and also 6 additional officers from the East Side Division were there. Immediately when they knocked on the door, people inside fired on them, we're told. 2 of the officers shot in the neck, 2 additional officers shot in the extremities, and then a 5th had a knee injury. So the mayor and the police chief asking for prayers for the 2 injured officers who are in surgery and are critical, we're told thankfully are in stable condition. And then one of the officers, we're told, is well enough that he may be able to get out of the hospital today. But that is the latest information from here. Of course, we'll wrap it all up tonight at 10 o'clock. Bill and Dominique.
All right, Jacob, thank you so much. So the Houston Police Department now in investigation mode, having left the response mode. Robert Arnold on the scene right now. Robert.
Yes, we've seen quite a few of the SWAT vehicles and other heavily armored vehicles move out of the area. They've also dropped a lot of the barricades around the streets. However, they are still keeping a tight perimeter around that 1 block area where the house is, because now what we're seeing move in as the SWAT officers and other tactical officers moved out are crime scene investigators from the Houston Forensic Science Center. We see prosecutors with the district attorney's office, as well as Houston police homicide investigators and members of what's called HPD's shooting team. They're all going to start going in now and investigating the exact circumstances surrounding these shootings here, not just for the case involving this, but also for training purposes. Anytime you have something of this magnitude, HPD always looks to see if there are ways that other officers can learn from this. So that's why you have investigators in there now alongside those prosecutors, as well as those crime scene investigators going through. We also saw ATF agents out here. This is very common now. ATF agents will look at the guns, run traces on the guns, run traces on the bullets to see if possibly there's any connections to other crimes. So there is still going to be a long night ahead for investigators who are out here trying to piece all of this together. Reporting live from Southeast Houston, Robert Arnold, KPRC, Channel 2 News.
Thank you, Robert. Our first reporter on the scene, Sally Mandu, will be our last as we wrap up our coverage for now. Sally?
Dominique, very busy scene still, despite the fact that they've secured the original scene where the shooting happened. But as you can see, a lot of people having to reroute. A lot of people that live in this neighborhood are having to reroute. We've seen officers block the street now, the intersection by Harding and Berkeley Streets, as several crime scene vans have seen. We're seeing just driving into this area. This is going to be. It's going to take a couple of hours out here. Going to be a lot of officers and detectives coming to the scene to investigate this scene. As you can see, people are trying to get to their homes after being evacuated for a couple of hours. But right now, we can't get closer to the scene yet. We're still kept at a distance. Right now, it's very busy. You have detectives leaving and coming from the scene. Certainly going to spend the next couple of hours here looking and combing through this the scene where a shooting happened. Back to you.
All right, Sally Mandu, completing our round robin of reporters out there. We're going to leave you with just a couple of final notes. One of them is this. The police chief made mention of the fact that some news organization had enterprised the address of one of the undercover narcotics officers who was wounded in this attack today and had gone to their home. That is something we would never do. It was not us. Just want to let you know that.
We also want to let you know that at this moment, 2 officers are in surgery. They are in critical condition. The mayor of Houston has asked for prayers for them, for the family members who are making their way to the hospital right now. These officers were shot in the neck area. They are in critical condition, but they are stable, and thankfully they are in the hands of the skilled surgeons at Memorial Hermann tonight.
That is great news. And we are, of course, wrapping all this up for you and bringing it to you in one serving tonight on our newscast at 10 o'clock.
Meantime, the news conference is continuing right now on click2houston.com if you would like to see that. We will get to work in the newsroom and we'll bring all of this to you tonight on our news at 10 o'clock.
See you at 10.
This has been a breaking news alert from KPRC Channel 2. For continuing coverage, log on to click2houston.com.
Just so you understand, I know so much about trade with China. Carl Icahn today, as you know, endorsed me. Many businessmen want to endorse me. But that Carl said, no, but he's somebody that, these are the kind of people that we should use to negotiate. And not the kind of people that we have who are political hacks, who don't know what they're doing. And we have problems like this. And these are the kind of people we should use our best and our finest. Now, here's what I'm saying. China, they send their goods in, we don't tax, they do whatever they want to do, they do whatever they do. Okay. When we do business with China, they tax us. You don't know it, they tax us. I have many friends that deal with China. They can't deal. Number one, they don't want the product. And when they finally get the product, it is taxed. And if you look at what happened with Boeing, and if you look at what happened with so many companies that deal. So, we don't have an equal playing field. I'm saying, absolutely, we don't have to continue to lose $505 billion as a trade deficit for the privilege of dealing with China. I'm a free trader. I believe it. But we have to be smart. And we have to use smart people to negotiate. I have the largest bank in the world as a tenant of mine. I sell tens of millions of dollars. I love China. I love the Chinese people. But they laugh themselves. They can't believe how stupid the American leadership is. So you're open to a tariff? I'm totally open to a tariff. If they don't treat us fairly, hey, their whole trade thing is tariff. You can't deal in China without tariff. They do it to us, we don't do it. It's not fair trade.
Neil, let me say one thing about this. I'm a free trader. I supported NAFTA. I believe in the PTT because it's important those countries in Asia are interference.
The single biggest liar. You probably are worse than Jeb Bush. You are the single biggest liar. This guy lied, let me just tell you, this guy lied about Ben Carson when he took votes away from Ben Carson in Iowa. And he just continues. And today, we had robocalls saying Donald Trump is not going to run in South Carolina, where I'm leading by a lot. I'm not going to run. Vote for Ted Cruz. This is the same thing he did to Ben Carson. This guy will say anything. Next, just, he wants to be a tough guy. A lot of times, you'll have, and it doesn't work very well.
How tough is it?
A lot of times,
property for that elderly woman.
Let me talk, Wyatt.
How tough is it?
A lot of times, that's all of his donors and special interests. Well, I'm very glad that Ted mentioned Arizona, because probably the toughest man on borders is Sheriff Joe Arpaio, and 2 days ago, he totally endorsed me. So, I so happen to call him a lightweight, okay, and I have said that, so I would like to take that back. He's really not that much of a lightweight. And as far as, and I have to say this, he hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I Hillary Clinton in many polls. The Q poll just came out. I beat Hillary Clinton in a recent Fox poll. I beat Hillary Clinton in USA Today. I beat her today in a poll Right.
Missiles and rockets are no longer flying in every direction. Nuclear testing is stopped. Some military facilities are already being dismantled. Our hostages have been released, and as promised, the remains of our fallen heroes are being returned home to lay at rest in American soil. I would like to thank Chairman Kim for his courage and for the steps he has taken. Though much work remains to be done. Sanctions will stay in place until the implementation occurs. I also want to thank the many member states who helped us reach this moment. A moment that is actually far greater than people would understand. Far greater. But for also their support and the critical support that we will all need going forward. Special thanks to President Moon of South Korea, Prime Minister Abiy of Japan, and President Xi of China. In the Middle East, our new approach is also yielding great strides and very historic change. Following my trip to Saudi Arabia last year, the Gulf countries opened a new center to target terrorist financing. They are enforcing new sanctions, working with us to identify and track terrorist networks, and taking more responsibility for fighting terrorism and extremism in their own region. The UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar have pledged millions of dollars to aid the people of Syria and Yemen, and they are pursuing multiple avenues, ending Yemen's horrible, horrific civil war. Ultimately, it is up to the nations of the region to decide what kind of future they want for themselves and their children. For that reason, the United States is working with the Gulf Cooperation Council, Jordan, and Egypt to establish a regional strategic alliance so that Middle Eastern nations can advance prosperity, stability, and security across their whole region. Thanks to the United States military and our partnership with many of your nations, I am pleased to report that the bloodthirsty
We're dealing with the Islamic terrorism. This is a tough business. And we need to have the leaders that is real tough. You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way. I'm at 42 and you're at 3. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So far I'm doing better. You started over the weekend. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you'll be up.
We're gonna say.
People having difficulty, but anybody has to have it. Let it be them.
What the heck are these wild now?
And I watched President Obama today, and he was more angry at me than he was at the shooter. And many people said that. You saw what one sleazebag can do. One sleazebag over the weekend, what he did. Since President Obama became president, we are going, I was against the war in Iraq. I was against it from the beginning. Like to say, well, I don't agree.
They're just, to me,
$20 trillion. We should have a law that when you're running for president, you're not allowed to use a teleprompter because you end up getting some stiff that just reads his speech. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. It is wonderful to be in Albuquerque. And Hillary Clinton, for her incompetence,
right now, if you want to apply for working scholarship. But that's what it is. I'm here to stay with plug on your show because I don't really know how to put that message out there without inflaming somebody who's going to start the sentence with like, well, I've always been a fan of yours, but ... So you sat down with that son of a gun over there and said this. Now all of a sudden, you're on the naughty list forever.
We believe that reason and decency will reemerge, and that's why we always have a space to chance to plug anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So think about that BuzzFeed story. The CEO
That's how they need to play around with
Future construction work.
talking about how he's morally superior to you. But check and see how he treats his employees. Find out what his kids think.
You know, I have a friend, he's the biggest in the world at building plants. That's what he does, he builds plants.
Topic because I got some other phone calls. Do you want to address this topic? What are your thoughts? There's a new.
Sorry, I need a issue, but it goes back to what you brought up. I don't think they would have looked at they could rap all day. Your parents should be some legacy. First off, again, I'm not saying that a president should be out there looking.
I don't know. I want to stay focused on what we're talking about. This new bill that will be a law in about 10 days or so. Any questions for Patrice?
I don't have any questions, but I know you guys think you want to start.
Thank you, and Patrice, stay right there. Patrice, Ronald Sapp, did respond via email. He says it's going to cut off. I'm on my way home, but I most definitely want to tell you, yeah, I was in Albany for it, but I wanted to tell you, thank you for everything you did for me. I'm going to buy you that drink, 100%, okay? I'm just so happy right now. I stayed on the path with this. Salute my brother. I'll reach out to you when I get home or tomorrow while at work. He said,
Yeah.
Just let be on the line, you know, my prayers go out to you, man. I put the family.
Free American to their core because it doesn't matter where you stand politically. It's an
One graduating out of high school this year and the other one is 16.
clear and present danger to what is our great Democratic Republic. These are the actions
You know, we need to pass more laws.
rank and file members, law enforcement, they're working hard every day to keep this country safe. Those rank and file officers and field agents, they have no say in any of this. Instead, we have a few very powerful top echelon bureaucrats in Washington working equally hard to destroy the Trump administration, invalidating. The 2016 election, protect their friends from ever being held accountable, like Hillary, exoneration before investigation, the phony dossier, lying to FISA corporate judges and committing fraud. And with that said, the witch hunt is now, according to reports, in its final days. According to the new acting AG, Matthew Whitaker, the investigation is close to being complete. Watch this. Apparently not.
Right now, investigation is I think, being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
All right, so here we are, 621 days. The witch hunt now maybe almost over. So far, zero evidence of any collusion. And meanwhile, the President of the United States does have important work to do. Mainly the safety, the security, the American people. Let not your hearts be troubled. This is a president who keeps his promises. So, I put a couple of questions to my conservative friends that are mad at the president for allowing the Congress 3 weeks to do their job, make a deal on immigration, and open the government in the interim. Here's the question. Do you believe for 1 second, do you really believe the president has stopped his full-on fight over the border wall that he has promised? Has he not shown he is a tenacious fighter when it comes to keeping his promises? I've said this before. In my opinion, I don't care where the money comes from. I don't care how they get it, as long as they build a wall to keep us safe. So don't let what I believe to be a shift in strategy fool you, because I don't have any doubt at all that the president is going to fight as hard, if not harder, for the money for the wall. Because in this case, his fight is principle. Think about this. The president, he's talking about safety and security, even life and death of the American people. He talks about
Okay, yeah, I think I was having her on the show once before, and I heard about this.
Are you a father by any chance? Are you a father?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any thoughts
Three girls and a boy.
Okay, any thoughts about young people being protected or, something along those lines? Because this particular, bill is going to be a law about 10 days.
Radical and extreme.
That's going to be for New York or throughout the nation. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thank you, man.
One national party. It was like 3 weeks. Democrats can come to the table, walk out and compromise. That gets them into the things they say they want. Reagan, 55% approval rating. 2 years later, he swept 49 states. Overwhelmingly re-elected. All because his promises, both the American people, the economy turned around, not against the far left detractors. Familiar? Debating in 2 years, it brings us to a handy watch on the radical crop of hopeful, unlike 2018, this year's going to be all. 2018, they were hiding their position. 2020, they're going to all try to out-radical each other. But get ready for this every time.
What about Michael Jackson? Because this debuted at the Sundance Film Festival, and it's fucking 4 hours long, and they two people that it focuses on. Yes, and it focuses on these guys already said Michael Jackson did not touch them, but now it seems like they're going to try and use Michael Jackson. I'll give you the last word, sir.
Yes. I mean, mean, I remember when the band just, he got found. It seems like with the superstars, the black superstars, it's like I'm starting to feel like they untouchable. Okay, when Bam Bottom went to Brazil, allegedly, I'm saying allegedly, like I let the kids show. Because I'm hearing the kids, it's a certain age, this age is like 15 or 16 or stuff, so, and to me, I'm like, okay, he's in Brazil, so he's in like, this little boy have it, not trying to be.
This is frankly, I don't care what your position.